Your soulmate is slowly realizing that losing you would change their life forever. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because something unexpected has been happening inside your soulmate's heart. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Not in a way anyone else could easily notice. But little by little. Day after day. Thought after thought. A realization has been growing. And listen to this. At first, they didn't recognize it. Life was busy. Responsibilities demanded attention. Schedules filled their days. Goals occupied their mind. Everything seemed normal. Everything felt familiar. Nothing appeared different. Yet beneath the surface, something had quietly begun to change. Because your heart needs this right now, because the most important realizations often arrive gradually. Your soulmate was experiencing one of those realizations. And listen to this. It started with small moments. Moments they didn't think much about at first. A memory appearing unexpectedly. A conversation returning to mind. A smile they remembered long after the moment had passed. A feeling they couldn't quite explain. None of it seemed significant individually. Yet together, those moments began creating a pattern. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful truths often reveal themselves through repetition. Your soulmate kept noticing the same thoughts returning. Again. And again. And again. And listen to this. At first, they assumed it was coincidence. Everyone remembers things occasionally. Everyone revisits old conversations. Everyone reflects on the past sometimes. Yet this felt different. The memories weren't fading. They weren't disappearing. If anything, they seemed to become more meaningful with time. Because your heart needs this right now, because some connections become clearer when viewed through reflection. Your soulmate was beginning to reflect. And listen to this. One evening, while sitting quietly after a long day, they found themselves thinking about how quickly time passes. How days become weeks. How weeks become months. How entire chapters of life can disappear before we fully appreciate them. The thought lingered. And with it came another question. A simple question. Yet one powerful enough to change everything. The question was, what truly matters most? Because your heart needs this right now, because certain questions reveal truths we've been avoiding. Your soulmate was about to discover one. And listen to this. At first, their mind searched for obvious answers. Success. Achievements. Goals. Plans. Future ambitions. Yet the more they reflected, the more another answer appeared. Relationships. Connections. People. The individuals who leave lasting impressions on our lives. The individuals whose presence changes ordinary moments into meaningful memories. Because your heart needs this right now, because human connection often becomes more valuable with time. Your soulmate was beginning to understand that value. And listen to this. The realization continued growing. The more they thought about it, the more they noticed something surprising. The memories that remained strongest weren't connected to accomplishments. They weren't connected to material things. They weren't connected to achievements. They were connected to people. Shared experiences. Conversations. Moments of understanding. Moments of laughter. Moments that seemed small at the time but felt important now. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning often hides inside ordinary moments. Your soulmate was finding that meaning. And listen to this. For the first time in a long while, they stopped rushing toward the future. Stopped focusing only on what came next. Stopped measuring life by goals alone. Instead, they began appreciating the people who had helped shape their journey. The people who had influenced their growth. The people who had left lasting impressions on their heart. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often reveals what truly matters. Your soulmate was becoming grateful. And listen to this. As the days passed, another realization emerged. A realization that felt both surprising and deeply personal. They realized that some people become woven into our lives so naturally that we stop noticing their impact. We assume they'll always be there. We assume there will always be more conversations. More opportunities. More moments. More time. Yet life doesn't guarantee those things. And that understanding changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation often begins when we recognize that nothing should be taken for granted. Your soulmate was beginning to appreciate more deeply. And listen to this. One quiet night, they asked themselves another question. A question they had never fully explored before. The question was, what would my life feel like if certain people were no longer part of it? The thought immediately captured their attention. Not because it created fear. Because it created awareness. Awareness of value. Awareness of importance. Awareness of emotional significance. Because your heart needs this right now, because imagining absence often reveals appreciation. Your soulmate was beginning to appreciate what truly mattered. And listen to this. The answer wasn't dramatic. It wasn't overwhelming. It was honest. Certain people had become meaningful parts of their story. Meaningful parts of their memories. Meaningful parts of their growth. And suddenly they understood something important. Some connections quietly shape who we become. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful people leave lasting marks on our lives. Your soulmate could finally see those marks. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the clearer everything became. Life wasn't only about accomplishments. It wasn't only about reaching goals. It wasn't only about achieving success. Life was also about connection. Understanding. Shared experiences. The people who walk beside us through different chapters. Because your heart needs this right now, because relationships often become the most valuable part of any journey. Your soulmate was realizing that. And listen to this. The realization grew stronger every day. Not because something dramatic happened. Not because a major event occurred. Because reflection created clarity. And clarity revealed gratitude. The gratitude revealed appreciation. And appreciation revealed truth. Because your heart needs this right now, because truth often arrives through quiet reflection. Your soulmate was discovering that truth. And listen to this. For the first time, they truly understood something. The impact someone has on our lives isn't measured only by how often we see them. It's measured by how deeply they influence our thoughts, memories, growth, and understanding. And some influences last much longer than we realize. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful connections often leave permanent impressions. Your soulmate was recognizing one of those impressions. And that realization would soon lead to an even deeper understanding. An understanding that would change the way they viewed everything. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after the first realization appeared, your soulmate tried to continue with life as usual. They focused on responsibilities. They followed familiar routines. They stayed busy. They told themselves they were simply overthinking. Yet something kept happening. The same thoughts returned. The same memories resurfaced. The same feelings refused to disappear. And listen to this. At first, they didn't understand why. Why certain moments stayed in their mind longer than others. Why certain conversations seemed more meaningful now than they did at the time. Why some memories felt brighter every time they revisited them. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful connections often reveal their importance gradually. Your soulmate was beginning to see that importance. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more they noticed something unusual. Life had a way of moving quickly. Days passed. Weeks disappeared. Months seemed shorter than ever. Yet despite how quickly time moved, some memories remained untouched. Clear. Vivid. Meaningful. Almost as though time itself couldn't weaken them. Because your heart needs this right now, because certain experiences leave lasting impressions on the heart. Your soulmate was recognizing those impressions. And listen to this. One evening, while thinking about the future, they asked themselves a question. A simple question. Yet one powerful enough to change everything. The question was, what are the things I would miss the most if they were suddenly gone? At first, they expected obvious answers. Comfort. Routine. Familiarity. Yet something deeper appeared. The answer wasn't about things. It was about people. Connections. Moments shared with others. The sense of understanding that comes from meaningful relationships. Because your heart needs this right now, because people often become the most valuable part of our lives. Your soulmate was beginning to understand that truth. And listen to this. As the days passed, they became more aware of how much influence certain people had on their happiness. A kind word could improve an entire day. A meaningful conversation could stay in their thoughts for weeks. A shared memory could bring comfort during difficult moments. These things seemed small. Yet their impact was enormous. Because your heart needs this right now, because life's greatest treasures are often emotional rather than material. Your soulmate was discovering that treasure. And listen to this. The realization continued growing stronger. The more they reflected, the more they understood something important. Not every connection affects us equally. Some remain pleasant memories. Others become part of who we are. Part of our story. Part of our growth. Part of the way we see the world. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful people often help shape our journey without realizing it. Your soulmate was finally recognizing that influence. And listen to this. One night, they found themselves revisiting old memories. Not because they were trapped in the past. Not because they were avoiding the future. Because those memories carried meaning. Each one seemed to remind them of something valuable. A lesson. A feeling. A moment of understanding. A reminder of what truly mattered. Because your heart needs this right now, because memories often become teachers when we take time to listen. Your soulmate was listening. And listen to this. The deeper they reflected, the more another truth emerged. For years, they had assumed that appreciation was automatic. That if something mattered, they would naturally recognize its value. Yet life was teaching them something different. Sometimes we don't fully appreciate something until we imagine life without it. Sometimes absence reveals importance. Sometimes reflection reveals gratitude. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation often grows through awareness. Your soulmate's awareness was growing. And listen to this. The question continued returning. Again. And again. And again. What would life feel like without certain connections? Every time they asked it, the answer became clearer. Life would continue. The world would keep moving. Responsibilities would remain. Yet something meaningful would be missing. Something difficult to replace. Because your heart needs this right now, because some people leave unique impressions that cannot simply be duplicated. Your soulmate was beginning to understand that uniqueness. And listen to this. The realization wasn't dramatic. It wasn't overwhelming. It was quiet. Steady. Certain. The kind of understanding that grows stronger with time instead of weaker. The kind of understanding that changes perspective. The kind of understanding that makes ordinary moments feel more valuable. Because your heart needs this right now, because perspective changes everything. Your soulmate's perspective was changing. And listen to this. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped focusing on what was missing from their life. Instead, they started appreciating what was already present. The conversations. The support. The understanding. The memories. The connections. All the things they had previously overlooked. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often begins when we stop taking things for granted. Your soulmate was becoming grateful. And listen to this. The more grateful they became, the clearer everything felt. Certain people had become important parts of their story. Important parts of their growth. Important parts of their happiest memories. And realizing that changed the way they viewed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because recognizing value transforms ordinary relationships into extraordinary ones. Your soulmate was beginning to see that value clearly. And this realization would soon lead them toward an even deeper truth. A truth they could no longer ignore. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after weeks of reflection, after countless memories resurfaced, and after asking themselves questions they had avoided for a very long time, your soulmate reached a turning point. A moment of honesty. A moment of clarity. A moment they never expected. And listen to this. For a long time, they believed appreciation was something simple. Something automatic. Something that happened naturally. They assumed that if a person mattered, they would always be aware of it. Yet life began teaching them something different. Something deeper. Something more powerful. The people who impact us the most often become part of our daily lives so naturally that we stop noticing their influence. Because your heart needs this right now, because familiarity can sometimes hide value. Your soulmate was beginning to uncover that value. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more they noticed how often certain memories returned. Not because they were trying to relive the past. Not because they were stuck in old chapters. Because those memories carried meaning. Each memory seemed connected to a lesson. A feeling. A moment of understanding. A reminder of something important. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful memories often remain for a reason. Your soulmate was starting to understand that reason. And listen to this. One evening, while thinking about how much life had changed over the years, they realized something surprising. Many things they once considered important had faded. Old worries. Old goals. Old distractions. Old fears. Yet some things remained. Some memories remained. Some connections remained. Some people remained. Even after time passed. Even after circumstances changed. Because your heart needs this right now, because what lasts often reveals what matters most. Your soulmate was finally recognizing what lasted. And listen to this. As they continued reflecting, another realization appeared. A realization that immediately captured their attention. For years, they had focused on what people did. The advice they gave. The conversations they shared. The moments they spent together. Yet now they noticed something deeper. The true impact wasn't always found in actions. Sometimes it was found in how a person made you feel. Understood. Accepted. Valued. Supported. Because your heart needs this right now, because emotional impact often leaves the deepest mark. Your soulmate was beginning to recognize that mark. And listen to this. The realization grew stronger every day. Certain people had influenced their growth. Influenced their perspective. Influenced the way they viewed themselves and the world. Not through dramatic events. Not through extraordinary circumstances. But through consistency. Presence. Understanding. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful connections often shape us quietly. Your soulmate could finally see that shaping taking place. And listen to this. For the first time, they allowed themselves to imagine what life would feel like if those influences disappeared. If those conversations no longer happened. If those memories stopped growing. If those moments became impossible to create again. The thought wasn't comfortable. Not because it created fear. Because it created awareness. Awareness of value. Awareness of appreciation. Awareness of how deeply some connections matter. Because your heart needs this right now, because awareness often creates gratitude. Your soulmate was becoming deeply grateful. And listen to this. The more they thought about it, the more obvious everything became. Life isn't measured only by accomplishments. It isn't measured only by goals achieved. It isn't measured only by success. It's also measured by relationships. By shared experiences. By the people who help make the journey meaningful. Because your heart needs this right now, because achievements may fill a resume, but connections fill a life. Your soulmate was beginning to understand that truth. And listen to this. A powerful question appeared once again. A question that had been quietly growing stronger for weeks. The question was, what if I never fully appreciated what this connection meant? The thought stayed with them. Because suddenly they realized appreciation shouldn't wait for loss. Gratitude shouldn't wait for absence. Recognition shouldn't wait until something is gone. Because your heart needs this right now, because the best time to value something is while it's still part of your life. Your soulmate finally understood that lesson. And listen to this. As the realization deepened, something changed inside them. The future looked different. Not because circumstances had changed. Because perspective had changed. They stopped focusing on what might disappear. And started focusing on what already existed. The connection. The memories. The influence. The meaning. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude transforms how we experience the present. Your soulmate was experiencing that transformation. And listen to this. Every reflection seemed to point toward the same conclusion. Some people enter our lives and leave pleasant memories. Others become part of our personal growth. Part of our emotional foundation. Part of our story. The difference is not always obvious at first. Sometimes it takes time to recognize. Sometimes it takes reflection. Sometimes it takes imagining life without them. Because your heart needs this right now, because perspective reveals truths we often overlook. Your soulmate's perspective had changed completely. And listen to this. The realization they could no longer ignore was simple. Yet powerful. It was this. Some connections matter far more than I realized. The moment that truth settled into place, everything became clearer. The memories felt richer. The conversations felt more meaningful. The appreciation felt stronger. The future felt different. Because your heart needs this right now, because recognizing value changes everything. Your soulmate had finally recognized that value. And now they know there is one final truth left to discover. A truth that will bring every lesson, every memory, and every realization together. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, because after all the reflection, after all the memories, after all the quiet moments of honesty, your soulmate has finally reached the realization that explains everything. The realization that has been slowly forming beneath every thought. The realization that changed the way they see their life. And listen to this. For a long time, they believed important things would always remain obvious. They believed they would always recognize what mattered. Always appreciate what was valuable. Always understand who had made a difference in their life. Yet life taught them something unexpected. Sometimes the most meaningful things become so familiar that we stop noticing them. Not because they matter less. Because they become part of our everyday existence. Because your heart needs this right now, because familiarity can quietly hide the value of something extraordinary. Your soulmate finally understands that. And listen to this. As they reflected on everything they had learned, one truth became impossible to ignore. Many of their happiest memories shared something in common. Not a location. Not an achievement. Not a possession. A connection. A feeling of understanding. A feeling of being seen. A feeling of knowing that certain people had left a lasting mark on their life. Because your heart needs this right now, because the people who influence us most often become woven into our story. Your soulmate was finally seeing that story clearly. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more another realization appeared. A realization that immediately changed their perspective. For years they focused on growth. Goals. Success. Progress. The future. Yet they rarely stopped to consider who helped make the journey meaningful. Who made difficult moments easier. Who made ordinary moments memorable. Who left behind lessons and memories that continued long after the moment ended. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning is often found in the people we share life with. Your soulmate was discovering that meaning. And listen to this. One evening, while quietly thinking about everything that had changed over time, they asked themselves a question. A question that immediately captured their attention. The question was, what would truly be different if certain people were no longer part of my story? The answer arrived slowly. But once it arrived, it changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because honest questions often reveal honest truths. Your soulmate had asked an honest question. And listen to this. The answer wasn't about convenience. It wasn't about routine. It wasn't about habit. It was about impact. Some people leave traces of themselves in our memories. Others leave traces of themselves in the way we think. The way we grow. The way we understand life. The way we understand ourselves. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful connections influence us long after moments have passed. Your soulmate finally understood that influence. And listen to this. The realization became stronger with every reflection. Every memory seemed more valuable. Every conversation seemed more meaningful. Every lesson seemed more important. Not because the past had changed. Because their appreciation had changed. And appreciation changes everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude reveals value that was present all along. Your soulmate was becoming deeply grateful. And listen to this. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped asking, What else do I need? And started asking, what do I already have that matters? The difference felt enormous. One question focused on absence. The other focused on abundance. One focused on what's missing. The other focused on what's meaningful. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude transforms perspective. Your soulmate's perspective was transforming. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more obvious everything became. Life isn't remembered only through accomplishments. It's remembered through moments. Through conversations. Through laughter. Through understanding. Through the people who helped shape our journey. Because your heart needs this right now, because connections often become the most meaningful part of any story. Your soulmate was finally recognizing that truth. And listen to this. Then came the realization that brought everything together. The realization that connected every memory. Every lesson. Every reflection. The realization was, some people become so important that imagining life without them changes the way you see everything. The moment that truth settled into place, everything became clear. The appreciation. The gratitude. The understanding. The awareness. It all made sense. Because your heart needs this right now, because recognizing value changes how we experience the present. Your soulmate had recognized that value. And listen to this. The realization wasn't built on fear. It wasn't built on loss. It wasn't built on regret. It was built on appreciation. A deep appreciation for meaningful connections. A deep appreciation for shared experiences. A deep appreciation for the people who leave lasting impressions on our lives. Because your heart needs this right now, because appreciation is one of the clearest signs that something truly matters. Your soulmate finally understands that. And listen to this. As they looked toward the future, one final thought settled into their heart. A thought they knew they would remember for years. The thought was, the people who make our lives richer deserve to be appreciated while they are part of our journey. The moment that realization arrived, everything felt different. The future felt more meaningful. The present felt more valuable. The memories felt brighter. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude turns ordinary moments into unforgettable ones. Your soulmate had discovered that gratitude. And listen to this. The lesson they will carry forever is simple, yet powerful. The people who truly matter often shape our lives in ways we don't fully understand until we stop and reflect. And once we recognize that impact, we never see those connections the same way again.